we have to start it over.
So, what do you want to talk about today? I want to talk today more about self-awareness, because that's really what our whole Girls Gone Woke thing is about. Just being more conscious, living more consciously, and knowing why you do the things that you do so you can have a more fulfilling life. A specific, basic definition of what I think self-awareness is just knowing why you do the things that you do. Being in touch with your emotions and your thoughts and knowing why you're feeling a certain way. And that's my basic understanding of it. For me, I guess what got me into self-awareness is that I was living unconsciously and on autopilot, and I had nothing was going on in my life. Like, I felt fine, but this anxiety was just like in me. Like, I felt like I was gonna have a panic attack, and I had no idea what it was coming from or where it stemmed from. And I remember being like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, why am I anxious right now? I have no idea. And I went back to my roommate at the time and I was like, hey, do you always know why you're feeling the way that you feel? She was like, yeah, Monica. Like, I always know why I'm feeling a certain way. And I'm like, gosh, shit, I never know why I'm feeling a certain way, or like rarely. And I was like, damn, like, I'm really out of touch with myself. And so then I remember being up that night, like Googling self-awareness, how to be self-aware. And that kind of just started my process of it, because at that moment I realized that I had been so self-forgetting for so long, and it like made me sad that I didn't know about me. And so I kind of became like borderline obsessed with self-awareness and learning about myself, just because I was so self-forgetting. So that was kind of my start of it. But yeah, it like all stems back to, at least for me, like I am an empath, and so I like feel other people's feelings. And from like childhood, I remember my parents, and they meant well, they had like the best intentions, but they would always say like, oh, you're too sensitive, or like you need to get thicker skin. And emotions were just never talked about in my family, really. It was just more of like a mind over matter mentality, and like suck it up type of thing. And their intentions with it were good, but with me as a kid being more sensitive and feeling more, I in my little brain thought, wow, like it's bad to feel, emotions are bad. And really, emotions are what drive us in life. And so if you're out of touch with the way you feel and out of touch with your emotions, then you're going to be living unconsciously and you're not going to be aware. So I think that is like one of the first steps to gaining self-awareness, is just being more in tune with yourself and your emotions.
On my hat.
Oh, the Nike. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I was in swimming and I hated swimming, and it just like made me sick to my stomach. I really did not like it. And when I would try to express these feelings to my parents, like my mom, also with the best intentions, put like a sign over my bedroom door that said like, don't think about it, just do it. And so that was always ingrained in my head. Like, if I don't like something, or if I have a bad feeling, just ignore it. Don't think about it, just do it. Mind over matter. And that really is not a way to be self-aware. That's when people, when they're out of touch with their emotions, they think that like emotions are scary, and that's where people use outside sources to like numb their feelings. So like people will turn to food or alcohol or sex if they're feeling a certain way that they don't agree with and they don't know how to express it. They numb that with those things, which isn't healthy.
Yeah. Say it out loud. It's almost kind of shocking how asleep to yourself you actually are until you start like talking about it, which is why we just want to bring it up, get it out there in the open, because I have a feeling a lot of people are just living on autopilot and don't even realize it.
And I can give like a super simple example, just to make it more relatable, is like, if you had a bad day at work or something and you feel stressed and you find yourself like standing at the fridge and you're like craving sugar or carbs, you're not actually hungry, you're just stressed. But that you're using like food to then numb that uncomfortable feeling.
Right.
That's just a quick example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of dives into my story. Should I kind of explain how I
Yeah.
myself a little bit?
Yeah.
So for
Absolutely.
me, it meant turning my gaze inward, really digging down deep in yourself and getting to the root of what's causing you to live unconsciously. And a lot of people, because they're asleep to themselves, they just are trying to get to this end goal. And a lot of people are trying to get to typically what they think of as success at the end. But is it really success? I actually learned this in Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, which is so incredible. We both love it. He brings up this idea, is it really success if you were miserable along the way to get to that point? And I think for me, and sadly for a lot of young girls, that end goal is to be more thin. And for me,
Absolutely.
I think that, I don't know, it caused a whole lot of collateral damage into other aspects of my life, just because overall, when I was just constantly striving to be so thin, it made me so insecure. So it affected every other like decision I would make, whether it came to relationships or choosing a job. I just was so focused on making other people happy because I just didn't feel worthy myself. And it's funny because for me, it started when I was so young. So young. Like Monica said, like the just do it. Like you were just a little girl going to swim practice. For me, it was when I was, I don't know, maybe in 5th or 6th grade going to gymnastics. And I was so self-conscious about wearing my leotard that I would literally hide in the bathroom until I would have to go out, which went into middle school, and I literally was the girl who would wear a t-shirt and shorts rather than like wear my swimsuit because I was so worried about what others thought. It just like kind of spiraled, get into college, and finally I was like, oh my gosh, this is really unhealthy. And this is pretty personal, but I feel like it's good to get vulnerable in this space.
Absolutely.
I literally went to a plastic surgeon to get water lipo, and I like went in and they were like, honestly, it would be more dangerous for you to get this than good. You really don't need it. But in my mind, all I would focus on are like the little extra lumps that I had or the rolls. And then my ex-boyfriend at the time lived in Hawaii, and I was so worked up about not being able to get the surgery that I literally got myself sick, ended up in the hospital, and I wasn't able to even go on my trip. And think about like how much of a privilege it is to travel in general, but to be able to go to a beautiful place and then your own self held you back from going. It's just, now that I think back on it, where I am now, I'm like, wow, was I asleep to myself and what I really needed? It just goes to show how when you are asleep to yourself, it can cause so much collateral damage in other aspects of your life, where that's why Mani and I, we just think it's so powerful to talk about this subject because it hits so close to home to us in so many different ways. And we just think that to prevent anybody from feeling what we felt, being like so just asleep and avoiding our feelings.
We both just live very content lives. You know, like I know you had body image issues, I had body image issues. And I think we just know our innate worth now. Like our perspective has changed so much and we've grown so much so that, I don't know, we just kind of like completely worked our way out of those issues.
Right.
For the most part.
Right. And now we joke because more so it's like we aren't trying to impress others. We want other people to impress us. And haha, it's like kind of a joke, but seriously in that we aren't like bending over backwards to fit somebody else's mold. We are kind of learning to just rock what we've got. And it sounds cliche, but we're loving ourselves so much more that we've gained confidence in other aspects of our life. And it's funny how when you heal a certain part of you that has been left unhealed, all of a sudden it seems like the universe just opens up all these opportunities and things just start to feel right. Whereas before I was just resisting.
And flow.
Right.
For sure. And once you just let go, that's when you can just be in the flow state, and yeah, you just don't have that resistance or stress really anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Honey, and it's okay if you don't want to talk about this story too, but I always think about your hip surgery too, how.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'll talk about it.
Okay.
That just goes to show how detached I was from my feelings, and like that mind over matter mentality that I had just ingrained into my head. Is in college, I would run like 5 miles a day. And I also didn't really eat that much because like Claire, like I was supposed to be like really thin. But I like had this hip pain in my right hip for a long time, but would just ignore it, be like, no pain, no gain. And it got to the point where I would be like limping to class. Like it hurt so bad, but I was just that out of touch with it. I was like, nope, it'll go away. I would still go on my runs and like limp through my runs. And then like maybe like 2 months later, my mom came to visit me and was like, why are you limping? Like, we need to take you to the doctor. And I was like, no, I'm fine. She made me go to the orthopedic surgeon. I had a hip fracture, and it was almost as bad to the point of me needing hip replacement. So she made me leave on crutches that day. She's like, if you put any more weight on this, like you're gonna need a hip replacement. Oh, and it just is like, wow, like maybe I should listen to my body when I'm having so much pain instead of just try to like power through it. Right. But even that scenario didn't like wake me up. It took so many more things in my life to get me to wake up to myself because I'm so stubborn. So it was like the universe was just throwing down these like little pebbles at me, being like, hey, wake up. And I'd be like a little bigger rock, be like, hey bitch, wake up. And then throw down like bricks and be like, hey, wake the fuck up. Yeah. So hopefully we can catch people when it's just little pebbles, so it doesn't get to the point of where we're catching them at the bricks.
Nani, that's so funny how you said that, because that's honestly how it was for me too. Shocker. Yeah. But because I was just so out of touch with reality, it took those like big bricks where they're like, hey bitch, like it's time to go get help. And it was funny. Yeah. I also come from a family where it's very loving, honestly, so much love, but we don't typically talk about feelings openly as much. So I don't know if I just, if that was part of it, but finally one day I was just like, I think I could really benefit from just talking to someone, that, like, whether that be a nutritionist or a therapist. Like, I was just feeling, I don't know, something just hit me where I knew I needed outside help, like somebody to just talk me off the ledge, kind of bring me back to reality. And it was the best decision I ever made. Honestly, I think every single person, being a human is messy and it's hard. And I think every human can benefit from at least having maybe a really good friend or going to a therapist, anything in that nature, because it was the best experience. And he was an older man, so I was kind of like, is he going to be able to relate to me on these certain like experiences? But we ended up having so much in common, and it was actually really interesting because a lot of diabetics, there's a pretty high percentage who develop eating disorders because you have to constantly track your food intake and your carbs and everything. So it was so interesting. We were both diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 3. We had the same birthday, and he was the same age when his parents got divorced. So here I went in thinking like he wouldn't be able to relate to me, but literally it was the best, honestly, like person who could have been placed in my life at that time. He was the one who just opened so many doors. So I think, even if everybody probably thought like, oh, Claire looks so happy on the outside. Her pictures on Instagram, she's just thriving. But really on the inside, I needed help. And I think if that's what you need to do, like you do you and just own your story.
Right. Yeah. And everybody on this planet has something internally that they're struggling with, no matter how perfect their life looks on the outside, no matter how much money or fame or beauty that they have. Everybody has something that they're struggling with that maybe nobody else knows about. Like that, I also went to therapy, like Claire did, and that I think was one of like the things that when we told each other that, because we're both not the type to ever go to therapy. Like we had this mindset, like vulnerability is weakness. So when I told Claire, I was like, yeah, it's actually so amazing. Like I went because I wanted to be more self-aware and in tune with myself. Yeah. And it was like the best experience ever. And when I told Claire that, and she was like, oh, I went too. That's when we were like, damn, we're both on this like self-awareness journey together. And we just started these FaceTimes and reading all these books. But yeah, a big thing that I learned was that vulnerability is strength and like the biggest sign of courage. And you can't do something courageous without being vulnerable. So that was like a big wake up call to me, because I was like, wow, I've actually not been living vulnerably, and I've been like living in fear.
Right. And
yeah,
that's what
I agree with you that anybody would benefit. Anything else, Claire, that you want to add on self-awareness?
I think we're good on self-awareness. The last thing I think we should maybe touch on is our name. Just dive a little bit deeper and give a little clarity on the meaning of it.
On Girls Gone Woke? Yeah. On Girls Gone. Every word can have multiple definitions, right? And woke has multiple definitions. The first being social injustice, which we're aware of. Yeah. The second, and what we're using Girls Gone Woke for, is waking up to yourself and living consciously.
Yes.
And are living more conscious, fulfilling lives. So 2 girls that woke up.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we just wanted to clarify because I felt like there was a little bit of confusion on just where we got our name. So we hope that clarifies that for you. And we do understand the definition in terms of the social injustices. And we will touch on certain topics like that, but these are just our first couple episodes, and we really just kind of wanted to show you who we were, keep it fun and light. And this one was diving in a little bit deeper into self-awareness, but we just want to keep this place a positive place to be. So we will touch on a lot of topics.
But there is so much negativity in the world right now. Yeah. And we're not naive to that fact, but I also just think that this is a time now more than ever to stay positive and be optimistic. And feeding into that negativity, it doesn't actually help fix anything or solve anything. It just makes you angry and upset, but it's not changing anything. And I truly believe that in order to heal the world, you have to look within and heal yourself. And so that's what we're going to try to do here.
And do it on a collective level, because it really does start within each and every one of us.
It does. It does, because if somebody says something that is upsetting to somebody else and they react with anger, that just feeds into it. But if somebody says something that is upsetting to a self-aware person and they can take a breath and respond out of love and compassion, that is where change starts.
Right. And I think you just hit the nail on the head that way.
Looking within yourself.
Right. And we're not necessarily trying to be cheesy positivity. Like, we're very real. We obviously just love coming on here, and it's kind of like therapy for us too. But I don't know, our main mission is just to first look within ourselves and then spread what we learn to others. It's not like we're trying to shove this like everybody has to be happy all the time vibe, because I mean, we're realistic too. Right. Not what we're about always. We hope that just kind of clarifies some things for you, and we honestly love your feedback. If you have any questions, please shoot us a DM. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you would like to learn about. And yeah, we'll keep plugging along.
Another one in the books.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening, gang. We'll see you next Sunday.